Okay, so good day to all of you. So our next lesson is all about psychosocial risk in the workplace and its reduction. Physical well-being of the employees is very important, but organization must also concerned with the emotional and mental well-being of its employees in the workplace. So this mental and emotional well-being will be discussed on this lesson. So let's start. Okay, so again, the psychosocial risk in the workplace and its reduction. So, increase in the importance of psychosocial risk in the workplace. So, the past few decades have brought significant changes to the characteristics and conditions of performed work. The market's globalization and greater competition among related companies have a significant impact on the characteristics of work. This competition forces a constant growth in work intensity as well as an organization's continued transformation to accommodate its newest needs. So, because of globalization and greater competition, and also actually because of technology, there is a constant growth in work intensity. Why? Example, a report that can be done a week because of technology and productivity tools, it's now possible to finish a report or document in a day. Because of that, of course, the advantage is less time consumed for doing that particular requirement, and you have all the time for yourself. But that's not true. Since if you've allotted little time or you've used a little time for that requirement, you will have additional workloads because you have more time now. So that is why there is a constant growth in work intensity that sometimes employees cannot are overburdened already by the additional workloads given by their immediate supervisors. And then also, moreover, companies striving to achieve more flexibility have been searching for new forms of employment, such as fixed time employment, part time contracts, outsourcing, and temporary employment. So, this is also can cause stress to employees, specifically if there are part timers and temporary employees, because they will not know their contract be terminated, or will they be renewed. What if the company does not need their services anymore? So that is the source of stress for other employees. And we have this outsourcing. So if a company outsources some of its operation, it means that the company is undergoing cost cutting procedures or measurements. So this cost cutting includes laying off employees. So that's another source of stress for these employees who will be laid off. So the fourth European Survey of Work Conditions, conducted by the European Foundation for the Improvement of Living and Working Conditions, reported stress to be the second most common cause of ailments, dwarfed only by musculoskeletal disorders. So it's very important that we should control this so-called stress, because it should be of importance because it is the second most common cause of ailments in the workplace. So we have this table. So stress and stress-related symptoms, trends over time. So this is a survey. Does your job influence your health, or are you stressed with the job? Are you fatigued because of your job? Does your job cause you headaches, irritation, sleeping problems, and anxiety? As you can see with the answers, there is an effect, or there is stress actually that happening in the workplace. And then this data is for the European Union, actually in a European survey. So why psychosocial job characteristics are a source of risk? The mechanism of stress. So the mechanism of stress is the psychosocial property that explains the influence of work on the organization's health. It justifies the usage of the term psychosocial risk. So the concept of stress was introduced in the 1930s by the physiologist Hans Selye, who defined it as a non-specific response of the body to any demand placed upon it. This concept of stress works in both physiology and psychology. And stress in the workplace is a psychophysiological response to a situation in which the environment's requirements exceed the employee's capabilities or border such limits. So that's why I've been telling you that overburdening your employees with workload can can induce stress, specifically in the workplace. So it is told that stress is physiological and psychological level. So let's first discuss stress at the physiological level. So at this level, the three following axes are the most characteristic of stress. The first axis, direct agitation of internal organs by the autonomic nervous system, brain impulses from the hypothalamus agitate the autonomic nervous system, innervating the internal organs. The autonomic nervous system consists of the sympathetic and parasympathetic parts, which are antagonistic to each other. The sympathetic circuit is especially important, although not exclusively in relation to stress mechanics. Its agitation causes, among other effects, the following symptoms: pupil dilation, sweat gland agitation, heart rate acceleration, musculoskeletal blood vessel extension, stenosis of the blood vessels of the skin, extension of gills for acceleration of respiration rate, decomposition of glycogen and release of cellohexaose in the liver. And the second axis, so the neurohormonal, also called the hypothalamic anginal axis, impulses are delivered to the hypothalamus from the tonsillar body, a part of the limbic system, and then pass through the autonomic nervous system to the core of the adrenal capsule, which in turn releases adrenaline and norepinephrine, sometimes called the stress hormones, into the blood circulation. Their effects are often similar to those brought on by stimulation of the first axis. However, those are more delayed and tenacious. Adrenaline and norepinephrine create, among other symptoms, the following effects: increase in arterial blood pressure, increase in cardiac output, increase of free fatty acids, cholesterol, and triglycerides in the blood plasma, increase in muscle tension. And then the third axis, which is hormonal, also called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So this axis consists of three circuits that are more or less separate. The hypothalamus, through the hormonal canals, agitates the most important vessel for internal incretion, the pituitary gland. The gland then releases adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACTH into the blood circulation, stimulating the adrenal capsule's crust to release glucocorticoids, or the most recognizable is cortisol. Glucocorticoids cause the following symptoms such as increase in glucose production, increase in levels of free fatty acids in the blood, inhibition of immunological functions. So for physiological level, that is what is happening when there is stress. So the stress is very helpful for fight and flight response. For example, there is a fire. There are these tales that, for example, there is a fire, an emergency, then you brought your refrigerator all on your own and you carried it all the way outside. So that is the effect of stress. Actually, that is the good effect of stress. You will have this unexplainable energy that is used for emergency purposes. Okay, next is we have stress at the psychological level. At the psychological level, the emotional reactions most often caused by stress are anger, fear, and frustration. Cognitive reactions are strongly linked to emotional reactions and can be described as our feelings about the situation, ultimately overwhelming and threatening us, thereby lowering our self-esteem or even causing us to find hostility all around us. Compared with physiological level, which is more of our instinct as human beings if we're encountering dangerous situation, psychological level is a more dangerous. Stress at the psychological level is more dangerous than the stress at the physiological level, because it is what is happening if we are overwhelmed with stress. So we are lowering our self-esteem, and of course, we don't see good things anymore if we are really, or if you're experiencing chronic stress. The efficiency of rendition observed on the behavioral level varies in accordance with general emotional agitation in agreement with the classical rule of Yerkes-Dodson, which claims that the efficiency of performance is subject to agitation. With a slight increase in emotional agitation, we can observe an increase in performance efficiency in terms of insight, memory, focus, motor skills, and intellect rather. Whereas a large increase in emotional agitation is followed by a decrease in efficiency. So this is stress also in the psychological level. There is also this advantage, such as for example, you're in a competition and you are nervous, and then when you, for example, you talk to the whole audience or crowd, of course at first you're nervous, then after some time you've gained your confidence because of this emotional agitation, and then your presentation is okay. So that is the good effects of stress at the psychological level. But if there is a large increase in emotional agitation, it is followed by a decrease in efficiency. If you're too much nervous, for example, for speaking in a large public audience, sometimes that you have this mental block because you have a relatively large increase in emotional agitation, with the effect that you have lost focus, and of course that is what we had a mental block. Okay, general categories of ways to deal with stress. So, seeking information. So, what are the types of seeking information? Such as, for example, if you knew that you're already experiencing stress, sometimes you are researching through internet articles for the relief of stress, or other is we are talking with people with specialization in psychology, as our psychometrician or a guidance counselor, to ask their professional help. And then also taking direct actions. Unless you escape from the problem that causes the stress, you try to solve it. And then another one is holding back actions. Sometimes holding back actions, sometimes people are very reactive so that they become stressful. But holding back actions, you're really contemplating or thinking, oh, maybe this is just my sudden reaction, my sudden impulse. You're looking the problem with another angle. And then we have this intrapsychic methods, defensive mechanisms such as distancing the mind, so erasing from awareness the problems causing the stress. This is why some people, to relieve the stress or forget the stress, at least the problems, goes on drinking, and then projection, assigning our emotions and traits to other people, perfunctory reactions, disregarding real motives while acknowledging opposite and fake motives, repression, or disregarding thoughts or motives that may cause feelings of guilt, and many others. Okay, so I hope that you going to watch the other videos that is incorporated in this presentation. So I hope that you enjoying watching videos from TED Ed or TED Education, because there are many things that you can learn from that, and the discussion of the stress. What are the effects of stress in your body? It's not just with your of course, I know that it's because of our emotions, but it also has a negative effect on our brain, and generally to our body. So as much as possible, don't let stress control you, because actually stress is inevitable. From time to time we're encountering stress. The important thing is you should know how to control your emotions so that stress cannot control you. Okay, next is we have stress and diseases. So either long-lasting or especially intense stress may bring on damage to an organ or even a whole system, thereby leading to disease, such as cardiovascular diseases, especially coronary heart disease, heart failure and hypertension, distortion of the digestive system, especially peptic ulcers, musculoskeletal disorders, and decrease in immunological resistance. So, if actually stress for short periods is okay, But if it is long lasting or intense stress, then it is classified as chronic stress. So if this because our body should not be always in those stress mode, in that fight or flight response mode. So what will happen if you're always on that mode? So these are the diseases. So stress is not good for health if it is long lasting or intense stress or chronic stress. So again, we should learn to control the stress and not the other way around, that the stress is already controlling you. Then, professional burnout was first described in 1974 by psychiatrist H. Freudenberger and later popularized by research papers published by C.H. Maslach, a social psychologist, and her formulation of the measurement tool. In the beginning, burnout was connected to jobs related to direct services or helping other people. Thus, it included nurses, teachers, doctors, social workers, and so on. So, for people who are rendering services to clients directly, they are more prone with burnout. So, you can already see here, teachers are really prone to burnout. So that's why, as I've said to you, that um, since this job is really exhausting emotionally, because of course we are helping the students. We also have our immediate supervisor, our department chair, and of course our, for example, dean or head of academic affairs. So I hope that students will understand as to why some instructors are limiting their communication with the students, that as much as possible within office hours 8 to 5, not beyond office hours, and not on weekends, because these people, not just teachers, nurses, doctors, social workers, whose job is directly helping, rendering services to other people, they must stress. They should have time for themselves to relax. Okay, so I hope that you understand, students, that do not be hard on them, because their jobs is very difficult, those jobs that requires direct services to the clients. So what will happen if you are burned out? Emotional exhaustion, that's the first. Depersonalization means, for example, you are a person who is always happy, who is always jolly, adorable, and then one day abruptly you change your you change, you become moody, you become cynical, you become all of the negative characteristics. You're not happy, you have mood swings. So that's the meaning of depersonalization. Sometimes people who act suddenly as if you're a different person, it means that maybe that person is undergoing stress. And the next is sense of lack of accomplishment at work. So because of stress, you felt like that, because you're already stressed, no one is appreciating you, no one is validating, oh, you're doing good. So that's why there's a lack of accomplishment at work. So burnout is most often observed among young people with no more than 2 to 3 years of professional experience, especially among those who begin their work with high, usually idealistic expectations of their role in the company and the significance of their work. So, of course, for new employees, there should be an orientation of what to expect. But it's not that I'm contradicting this, that burnout is often observed among young people with no more than 2 to 3 years. But actually, it can happen even though you are already 20 years working in that company. There are also external factors, such as, for example, your immediate supervisor causes you stress. So that's actually another story. So the three symptom groups described above can be classified under three general categories. So emotional exhaustion, so that is exhaustion, and then cynicism is the depersonalization, and ineffectiveness is lack of accomplishment at work. So again, I hope that you'll watch the video all about burnout, 7 signs that you really are burnout, and what are you going to do to avoid this being burnout. Okay, next is we have consequences of stress at the organizational level. Stress on employees affects the functioning of the whole company, which can lead to the following: increased absences. So, be absenteeism of the employee, lowered productivity, of course. You can notice if there's something wrong with the employee. He or she can accomplish things very efficiently, fast, and then one day, as you check his or her work, or you notice that why is my employee is very different from the previous years that he's been working. And then, of course, more accidents because of absent-mindedness. And then higher job turnover because the job is for them, they're not satisfied anymore. So, for that position, for example, the company should also study what are the job in which there is a higher job turnover, meaning there are newly hired in that position, and then a months later, or after a few periods of time, that new employee will resign. So they have to study what is wrong with that job, why are there is a job turnover. And then increase in costs related to higher morbidity rate. So the social risk factors in the workplace. So first is very high quantitative and qualitative demands. So the most common problems in modern work environments are too much work and pressure that the work be done quickly. As I've said on the beginning of this lesson, because of technology, the way we do things is faster in relation to that same job that is done in 1970s, 80s, because of technology. So that's why, because we have more time to do other things. So this entails too much work and pressure that the work be done quickly, because oh, you have to finish that because you already have the tools to finish that faster. And then according to the European Agency for Safety and Health at Work, the intensity of work is one of the major types of psychosocial risk. Intensive work can become a source of satisfaction and personal development when there is a significant amount of autonomy. So what does this mean? Even though the work is intensive, but the employee has the control. That's why the term autonomy. No one is micromanaging him or her. Micromanaging meaning every detail, every movement that the employee does, the immediate supervisor always checks. It's like that. It's the feeling of the employee will be, don't you trust me with my decisions? Every time that I make a move, you have to know. Sometimes you have to empower your subordinates, meaning that you trust them with their decisions and the work that they do. Okay, so we have percent of workers working at a very high speed. So, so for this one, we can see that the legends are never for 1991, but it's getting smaller. So it meaning because of technology, so work are done relatively at faster speeds because of productivity tools available in the workplace. And then continuation for this. So Margolis and others surveyed a representative number of employees in the United States aged 16 and over for a total of 1,496 people. The authors found that work overload was related to the following indicators of stress. So excessive use of alcohol, work absenteeism, and lower self-esteem. Okay. And then a more recent study reported by Dutch researchers involved a sample of 1,700 workers. It showed that high demands were significantly related to lower job satisfaction, higher emotional burnout, a slightly higher level of depression, and more frequent psychosomatic symptoms. So there are studies that evidence that very high quantitative and qualitative demands induces stress. And then psychosocial risk can also be caused by excessive qualitative demands at the workplace, meaning work that is too hard or complex. And then Kaplan and others surveyed representatives from 23 countries and certified that the higher the subjective complexity of work in terms of employee preference, the greater are the symptoms of depression among the surveyed people. Because the job is too hard or too complex, sometimes the employee loses his or her confidence that why am I hired? I don't know how to solve this. I've done everything I can, but still. So it lowers the self-esteem of the employee. And then also, excessive qualitative demands may also involve an excessive amount of work. So someone who has to perform a difficult task will have to work longer and more intensively. So that's why there are other employees, since the work is complex and difficult, sometimes even though they know how to do it, they choose not to because they know that they will have to work longer and more intensively. Actually, this qualitative demands is just fine if there is a compensation, additional compensation for the job. It's not just because the employee is committed. Also, do not abuse the employees. They should have a proper compensation so that even though the the job is very intense, they are properly compensated, and at the same time, they are being rewarded, or it's not with material rewards, but an appreciation from the immediate supervisor. And then, if very high quantitative and qualitative demands induces stress, also very low quantitative and qualitative demands induces stress also. So such situations involve performing job that may seem dull, repeatable, and are usually very much below the employee's potential abilities. Because sometimes they're going to question, why am I hired? Why am I in this position? There are cases like that. I'm too intelligent for this position. Why am I here? Don't they trust me? Don't they trust my ability? So that's the question. Because of that, the employee is also stressed. And then risks are also related to jobs that require physical isolation, for example, in Arctic stations, in submarines, or during wardenship. Okay, so this physical isolation is actually happening now in the new normal. So, for example, in my personal experience, as the former associate dean, sometimes if I'm very tired at work, I'm going to stop. I'm going to the faculty room, for example, or to where my friends are, and then we'll have a little chit chat. So that's the way to relieve stress. But because of the new normal and the setup is, of course, your friends are working from home, and you as an administrative official, you are assigned, or you have duties in school, in which sometimes you are alone. So sometimes there are others who are enjoying working to be alone. Actually, I enjoy working alone, but of course, if I need someone to talk to and I need to rest, of course I need to socialize also, because it's not just me, but humans are social beings. It's just like for if you're working alone in the office, and then you're going to think, if something happens to me by this time, no one's going to notice. So that's also very stressful if you are always working alone. And the next is, even professions commonly described as highly demanding and connected with a high level of stimulation may lack stimulation over a longer period of time, for example, among guards or pilots. So in psychology, an effect of solitary attitude is described among pilots. So it occurs above certain heights and is usually recognized as losing touch with reality and a feeling of abruption from the earth. It is accompanied by feelings of anxiety, apathy, and an urge to break out of the situation. Okay, also we have emotional demands. So emotional demands are a significant source of stress especially in jobs that entail frequent contact with other people, that is, predominantly in the service sector. As already described, nurses, doctors, teachers, social workers, and so on. So contact with other people, such as clients, okay? So you can see here students, patients, and so on, is frequently a source of negative emotions such as sadness, helplessness, such as when faced with suffering or an incurable disease for doctors, or anger toward a tedious client, irritation and impatient, such as toward a lazy student, so impatience for the teacher. Okay, so I hope that since this is already discussed in this lesson, I hope you students please be a blessing to your teachers to also relieve their workload and not to cause impatience to us. Okay? We don't want to be stressed out. And then generally accepted standards do not permit display of emotions. So people who help are expected to be composed and friendly. Thus, they are penalized twice. Why penalized? Of course, um, for example, you are helping a client, you are affected by the emotions that the client is showing, but you can't you can't do that. You can't show to the client that you are affected, and at the same time, you cannot you don't have any outlet to burst that emotion. So that's why they are penalized twice. So it's very difficult for people who are cannot express their emotions, at least for teachers, specifically for erring students. They can, it's not to be angry, but for example correcting the mistakes of the students. But for other jobs that with rendering services, so there are times that we cannot show any negative emotion with what is happening. And then a high level of emotional demand is related to a low level of mental well-being. It is conducive to professional burnout and behaviors incompatible with the standards of the organization or profession. So we have to be careful with jobs with high level of emotional demand because they are also prone to professional burnout. And it is also said here that it is related to a low level of mental well-being. Okay, another source of stress is low job control. So job control is the possibility of influencing one's work, its methods, pace, breaks, and so on, and the condition in which it is performed. Having control, not using it, is the most important. So, control of an employee in the work environment is being reassessed into aspects: job autonomy and participation in decision making. Okay, so if you are a person who's always monitored or always micromanaged by your immediate supervisor, it really means that I know that the immediate supervisor means nothing bad. He or she just wants the work to be flawless, to be perfect. But it also entails pressure to the employee at question because it's like you're not trusting the things that I've been doing. Why not do it yourself? Sometimes that's the joke with that. Since you're already the one who's always correcting me, why not do it so it's easier? Okay, so but it's not like that. Okay, but what do I mean is immediate supervisors should learn to empower their employees for things that you think that this employee can do this right. If there are mistakes, of course, to err is human, we're not perfect. But of course, let your employees learn from those mistakes. So as early as the 1960s, Kornhauser pointed to the negative mental effect of limited control as related to the necessity to work at a pace imposed by a machine. In his study, only 13% of workers working at a pace imposed by a machine were mentally healthy, whereas 29% of workers doing repetitive work at their own pace were mentally healthy. Meaning, though this 29% of workers are doing repetitive work, but they have their own pace, they have their own control of the time. So there were more mentally healthy than these workers who are working at a pace imposed by a machine, only 13%. So the latest British research confirms the negative health effects of lack of control. The British Whitehall 2 project has been going on for more than 10 years with over 10,000 civil servants as subjects. The results indicate that new cases of ischemic heart disease registered over a period of 5 years are significantly more common in workers with low job control compared to workers with high job control. So again, for low job control, immediate supervisors and managers should know how to empower their subordinates or their employees. So the results of research on the psychological outcome of participation in the decision-making process are not consistent. This is due to the fact that participation itself has various forms, such as we have formal and informal participation. It can be voluntary or coercive or you're forced. And we also have direct and indirect. Okay, another source of stress is job insecurity. Empirical research has shown a lot of evidence for job insecurity as an important risk factor for employees' health. Why? Because you're thinking, oh, maybe one day or maybe this month I'll be laid off by the company. Next is we have role conflict and ambiguity. So the clarity of a role can be described as a level of clarity in communicating goals and responsibilities to employees and the level of comprehending processes needed to achieve goals by employees. Usually, lack of clarity is a problem for high-level staff in an organization. So, Fisher and Gittleson, who conducted a meta-analysis of 42 studies on role clarity and its causes and results, observed that lack of clarity is mostly a problem to people who perform complex tasks and are well educated. In a study of Kahn and others, the lack of clarity in a role is a reason for either lower job satisfaction or leaving the job. So for lack of clarity, companies should have a clear job description of what the employee should be doing and should be not should what the employee's job and what the employee should not be doing. And it should be the job of other positions. And Margolis and others conducted a study in the United States in a representative sample of subjects. They found that unclear roles were related to depression, lower self-esteem, dissatisfaction with both life and job, and the intent to quit work. For example, if you're given an administrative position, meaning you have an ability to decide, and then suddenly your immediate supervisor or manager micromanages you. So it's like, what am I doing for? I have this administrative position, but the decision making process is always done by you. Again, this immediate supervisor or manager does not empower what should be given. The job should be given. It should be, you should trust your employees for decision making, since the position is an administrative position that has a decision making. And then lack of the role clarity has a lot in common with the professional burnout effect. So 14% of collective variation, depersonalization, 8% of collective variation, and lack of achievement of work, 10% of collective variation, thereby possessing all major components of the professional burnout effect. Okay, if we have lack of clarity at work, we also have role conflict. Can be described as a coincidental appearance of at least two role transmissions or demands made by the environment to the employee performing one task certainly excludes the possibility of performing the other because the assignments are clearly adverse. So employees bordering the organization who are in contact with other companies as well are especially vulnerable to role conflict. Internal workstations are less vulnerable to such risk, although employees working for more than one department may feel more threatened than others. For example, you have two projects or you have two managers, and they have this directive, but this directive are opposite or adverse with each other. The question is, whose directive are you going to follow? So that's also the so-called role conflict. So this should be implemented well in the company so that there are no role conflict that will happen in the future. Specifically, if the employee, for example, has two projects. For example, there are projects inside, and he or she has two immediate supervisors or managers, each for these projects. So the scale of conflict depends on two factors: who is transmitting the message that delivers the conflict, and the concerned person's position in the organization and influence on other employees. The bigger this influence, the greater the conflicts may become, and then role conflicts may lead to mental and physical health losses. Okay, so next is we have mobbing. So according to the Polish Labor Code, mobbing is an act or behavior aimed at or against an employee, especially resting upon a long-lasting and systematic harassment and threatening an employee, causing his professional self-evaluation to decrease, as well as aimed at humiliating and jibing an employee, keeping him or her away from other employees, or eliminating him or her from the team of employees. So this mobbing, in other words, is if there is bullying at school, mobbing is considered as bullying at the workplace. As immature as it is, this also happens. So although mobbing sometimes means an act of physical aggression, it is most often seen as a psychological violence. Some authors distinguish mobbing as personal, such as yelling, offending, jibing, threatening, ignoring, or nasty jokes, and that related directly to the work aspect, unrealistic task deadlines, too much work to do, tasks below abilities, constant control, and hiding important information. So these are, it's not classified, it's just this for this one is this is the personal. You are yelling because you're irritated with your employee, and then these other things. And then if you are really annoyed with the employee and you are the immediate supervisor, you will give this unrealistic task deadlines, too much work. So I hope that one day, if you'll be the manager, please don't do this. Even though you're, because of course, in an organization is not perfect. There will exist that there is a not so good terms with the employees. But of course, if they're really thinking about the organization, they should be mature enough that they have to think the well-being of the organization. So an employee who suffers health loss due to mobbing can come forward with financial demands of his or her employer, as well as request compensation if he or she chooses to terminate the contract due to mobbing. So mobbing has consequence for both an employee and the organization. So of course, the target or the employee will suffer, and of course, the organization. Why are these employees, or why mobbing exists in this organization in the first place? A victim of abuse usually suffers high stress, which may lead to physical and mental health losses if it is long lasting. So I hope that for this one, don't be a bully, not just with your classmates, but don't bring that being a bully also in the workplace. Be a blessing to other people. And then post-traumatic stress disorder is also possible. Such syndromes are often accompanied by depression, anxiety, fear, addiction, or even suicide attempts. Okay, let's go back with mobbing. So my personal take on this is, actually, I've experienced mobbing or workplace bullying. I will not go into the detail, maybe because sometimes, it's not sometimes, I was always misunderstood by people. Maybe the way I look. First, I was misunderstood. Actually, by the students. So I have this student, and then he became an employee of the university, and then he or she thought that he thought that I was tricked and terror because when he was a student, I was like that up until now, actually. Then then one day when we are in, of course, we are in the same station, in the same office, and then we are, of course, we're working, and then we have this conversation, and then the conversation went well, And then I was surprised with his comments that he never thought that he will have that conversation with me. He enjoyed our conversation. And then he never thought that I was like this. I was he told me that um he had a good conversation, and then he never thought because I was strict. As I told them, being strict or terror, if that's for the students, I just did that because you're my student. I don't want you to feel that you're close to me. And of course, there's it's not all the students. There are students who are really very abusive of the teacher student friendship. Where did I get that? Actually, I'm going to share to you a story as to why I am I promised myself I will not be close to any student because of what happened when I was in college. I have this professor. This professor is still very young at the time when I was in college, and he has this group of student friends. He became their friends because these are scholars. So because they are DOST scholars, they arrived or they have this session with that professor. For example, our the start of classes is June. So these DOST scholars are already in the university uh, a month before May. So because of that, he he had a bond or friendship bond with them. So that's why when it's our first day of class, I was wondering why did he knew these students. Although that's the reason because they're DOST scholars. And then one day I'll not again delve with the details. In summary, those group of students betrayed his trust. And what is heartbreaking with that scene is that professor is very kind. And because of that betrayal, actually he cried in front of the class. By saying that is, I pity him, and of course, my heart is breaking for him because he really is very kind. And then these students, these friends of his, does not even care. So, so I promise when for example now that I'm teaching because teaching is not actually my specialization. I'm more of computer science. It should be I will be in, I should be in the industry, but I chose teaching. So I don't want that to happen to me that I'm going to cry. So I really have this facade to the student that I have be strict and terror. And actually, and ironically, I am good friends with that professor. And then one time when we're together, of course as friends, he personally told me that because actually he's my professor for four mathematics subjects. So it means I've been his student for 2 years. He told me that I'm different with other student friends. I don't know if I'm exclusively the only one or maybe not. He told me that he was very thankful because I'm not the type of student that, for example, because we're friends, because he told me also a story. He also has a student friend, and then he gave a low grade of I think it's 2.75. And then that student texted him. The student told him that, "Oh, what? Oh, sir, why did you give me 2.75? You should given me a higher grade." And then he told me that he's very thankful I'm not like that. I told them, why would I be like that? I cannot question your authority. You're the teacher. I'm just a student. You're grading what you see or what our performance. And I know my capabilities at that time in mathematics, and I'm still very thankful that I passed, even though it's either 2.75. I will not complain because I know my abilities at that time, and I'm very thankful that I passed because actually those four mathematics subjects I really struggled at that time. So that's why. So I am not like that, and I don't want to destroy the friendship because of that. So actually, he really commended me at that I'm not that type of student who is abusive of the teacher student friendship. So going back by that, so that's why I was misunderstood. As I've said, maybe because of the structure of the face, I look like stern, stoic, So, and then also another misunderstanding, it's when I taught in Lipa City campus, then the associate dean at that time, when I submitted the requirements, he told me that he was surprised because I am a UP graduate. And I told them, why are you surprised, sir? Because he always has this prototype of a UP graduate who's noisy, who's arrogant, who thinks that he or she is the most intelligent person in the world. I told, sir, it's not all of them. Maybe it's also because of the personality, but it does not mean that if you're UP graduate, it means you're already noisy and you really brag about it and you're really arrogant. I think it always boils down to the attitude and personality of the person in question. So that's the other of the um I was always misunderstood. And because of that misunderstanding, yes, I was easily misunderstood to the point that this happened to me, this bullying. So there's a misunderstanding, and for me, actually, that has happened a long time ago. That when I'm thinking about it, um, it's like there's little misunderstanding. Why not talk about it so that the problem will not get bigger. So that's my point in that. And I hope that if you are misunderstood, talk about it, because sometimes if you're sometimes we're trusting our intuition, sometimes our intuition is wrong with the person. And I hope that they should know first the person if really he or she has done that or not. Because with my case, I was really wondering, what did I do wrong? It's just a misunderstanding, and it's just a misunderstanding with one person, and that happened. This person has a circle of friends, and those circle of friends are not talking to me also. So w- I only had a little misunderstanding with this person, and then why their group of friends are not talking to me anymore? So for me, it's just like immature. Is this child's play? If your friend is angry with that person, you should be angry too. And that person has done nothing wrong. So I hope that for that, you should be understanding. You should avoid this because actually, if I am only a very weak-willed person, maybe I'm not your instructor anymore. I am not be teaching this, and I shouldn't have met you. But because of I'm very very thankful with my parents for the upbringing, for my upbringing to be independent and strong, and then also for the social support. So they are not the only people in the workplace. So I have these people who does not judge me, who really who has the effort to know me better. So I'm really thankful for those persons. So um I am grateful for them. So even though we are of different colleges, I always pay respect to them because aside from that fact that of course it's like the feeling is it's like in a big brother house that you are evicted of the group without you confused what happened, why did they treat me this way. So I hope that I'm sharing this so that you know what to do if that will also be happening to you. So I hope not, because the feeling is not good, because it's like you're being why why all of them are mad at you. I did not do anything wrong. So, and also don't be that type of person. For example, you have a circle of friends, then they're all angry at you also, and you know that you're not doing anything to them. So, and the funny thing there is, in that circle of friends, there are persons who are older than them. If they are older than them, they should be the one who um, mediate mediate the conversation, or as acting as a older brother or big sister. But no, they also joined that that no talking, out of the group policy of that. So again, I hope that you'll be a blessing to your co-employees, or if not for your classmates. So don't let them feel that way, that don't let them experience mobbing, that workplace bullying, because it's not a good feeling. I'm just very thankful with the genuine friends that is there to support me emotionally, and who understood me better because they know that I am not like that. Okay, so I'm sharing this for not to make up gossips. No, I just want you to know that this is a very serious problems in the workplace. What if, for example, you did the mobbing out of your tripping, and what if the target has committed something to his or herself that is irreversible, for example, suicide? Won't you feel guilty? Of course, maybe you can feel guilt if you have conscience. So again, what I've been telling is be a blessing to other people. Okay. Next is we have interpersonal relations and social support. So I've told that already. So emotional support, showing sympathy, interest, kindness, and so on. Instrumental support, concrete forms of support. For example, solving a difficult problem. You gave him a helping hand to solve that problem. Informational support, delivering information crucial to solving problems. And evaluational support, giving opinions on a person's appearance, behavior, and speech. For example, if your co-employees did a good job, wow, you're very good. You did a good job on your speech. You look good today. You look beautiful today. So that is type of an evaluational support. And this is very important, interpersonal relations and social support. So if you're a person who is not sociable, so I hope that it's not okay. There's also a saying that you can't please everybody, but at least you have these people who can understand you and who knows you better. It's better to have a small circle of friends who are loyal and who understands you than you really have acquaintances but they don't understand you and they don't care. They only care if there is good happenings in your life, party, but if there are problems that arises or issues, then they are not in your sight, or no one is available for you for help. Okay, social support can have many effects on the employee's health. The kindness of the environment may become a shield that keeps out stress causing factors. If the surrounding environment has many stress causing factors, social support may become a buffer that shields employees from any negative impact on their health. And then there are direct relations between an employee's well being and social support. So, stages of occupational career as a source of risk. Successive stages in a person's professional career can be a source of characteristic forms of stress. Potential stress causing factors at the beginner stage are often related to shock caused by a difference between the naive expectations and the reality of work, confusion, lack of confidence, and the need to determine one's work and role in the company, strike up relations with superiors and workmates, and understand the rules and price systems in the workplace. So it's very important for a beginner or a new employee to have an orientation, to have a real expectation in the workplace or in the company. Professional burnout is most likely to show up at this stage of the career, and objectionable work conditions only fuel its strength. So again, professional burnout is likely to show up at that stage, but professional burnout can happen not because of this. For example, if you're a new employee, it can happen anytime depending on external factors. So Chernis names 5 sources of stress likely to appear in jobs related to helping other people. So lack of confidence in professional skills. So lack of appreciation from customers. Bureaucratic procedures that aggravate work. So this bureaucratic are overly concerned with procedure at the expense of efficiency or common sense. So sometimes, for example, if your immediate supervisor is by the book, but and these procedures are impractical, and then you knew because you're the ones in the operations, but of course your manager is not listening because of course you're just a subordinate. This is the procedure. This must be followed without thinking that it is impractical. And then lack of stimulation followed by a feeling of monotony and lack of teamwork and support from colleagues. So again, it's very important to have interpersonal relations and social support in the workplace. And then the current focus is on older employees beyond the peak of their careers, between 50 and 65 years old. The most important stress causing factors in this period are the need to deal with new technology. Of course, there are older employees who are doesn't want to learn new things anymore. It's like you can't teach new dogs. You can't teach old dogs new trick. Okay? And then lack of promotion possibilities because they're thinking, oh, I'm already old. I think promotion is already it's not for me anymore. And then likelihood of decrease in efficiency because of course age. The physical capacity decreases over time because of the changes in cardiovascular and respiratory system as discussed in the previous lessons. Need for additional training and then discrimination because of age, financial problems and health problems for the employee and his or her spouse. So we have models of psychosocial stress at work. So first is the demand and control support model, the DCS model. So American researcher Robert Karasek formulated the first version of the DCS model. Many studies had confirmed the demand control model, proving that when demands are high and control is low, mental, cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, or immunological disorders are significantly more frequent. Again, the conditions are the demands are high and the control is low. Johnson and Hall and Karasek and Theorel further developed the DCS model. They pointed to a third important dimension of the psychosocial work environment which determined the level of stress, the social support. So it becomes demand control support model. According to this model, stress is highest when high demands coexist with low levels of control and social support. A few studies have confirmed this extended model. So this is the illustration of Karasek's demand control model. So low demand and low control. This is passivity, and this is where stress is happening. High demands, but low control. And this is the most relaxed, or you're not stressed here. Low demands but high control. And then we have this high demands and high control. There is activity, of course. And then another is we have the effort reward imbalance model. So German medical sociologist Johann Sigrist created the ERI model, or the effort reward imbalance model. So this is the illustration of the ERI model. So typically in the workplace, if you have a high effort, it is not being compensated by a high reward, but mostly of low reward. Low reward are not just material things. It can be, of course, money, appreciation, just a little appreciation for immediate supervisor. It's already a big motivational boost for you to work harder. So validating, oh, you're doing a great job, so I'll continue this. I'll continue to do this because my immediate supervisor is happy with me. And then job security and promotion prospects, of course. This is what I've been telling, that for example your immediate supervisor always ask help from you, and after helping you helping him or her with a difficult task, and then it's like he or she has amnesia and the credit is all hers, and then he or she is not also helping with the promotion of his or her subordinates, which is very unfortunate. And then we have this overcommitment, and then we have stress. Of course, there are employees who are overcommitted with their work, but of course, it's not also healthy because overcommitment, these overcommitted people, of course, they have this also expectations that they always have a high reward. Okay, next is we have the job demands resources model. So the job demands resources or the JDR model was proposed by Demerotti and others and Bakker and others. It is a synthesis of the DCS and ARI models. The JDR model distinguishes two categories of work conditions, the demands and resources. According to Demerotti, job demands refers to those physical, social, or organizational aspects of the job that require sustained physical and or psychological, cognitive, or emotional effort on the part of the employee and are therefore associated with certain physiological and or psychological costs. And then job resources refer to those physical, psychological, social, organizational aspects of the job that is either or reduce job demands and the associated physiological and psychological costs are functional in achieving work goals, stimulate personal growth, learning, and development. So, including to job resources are the social support. Thus, the JDR model is a more general model, though it has much in common with the aforementioned model because this is the synthesis of DCS and ARI model. The demands in this model are not quantitative demands as in the DCS model. Rather, they comprise emotional demands, equipment problems, changes at work, and so on. Resources are not just control and support as in the DCS model or just rewards as in the ARI model, but all of these elements together. And then the essence of the JDR model lies in the assumption that every organization has its own characteristics, which can be classified into two main categories. We have the demands and resources. So, because JDR, job demands resources model. So, the problem with JDR is that it does not state precisely what characteristics of the work environment produce the most stress. So people responsible for psychosocial work condition may therefore not know what they should pay attention to first. However, this flaw of the model is also its advantage. The model is thus more flexible and can be adapted to specific organizations that are being analyzed. So psychosocial risk management. So the basic steps in the psychosocial risk management. So first is define the risk factors and their severity, range of prevalence, causes and relationship to overall health. Analyze the connection between risk factors and their result in terms of employees' health and organizational outcome. Social partners such as employers and employees' representatives, experts, and other important organizations active within the company work together to project an intervention set of rules aimed at limiting existing psychosocial risk and implementing the project. Evaluate the direct and long-term consequences of enforcing set of rules. Many factors decide if applying a set of rules aimed at lowering psychosocial risk will be effective. Two factors are especially important, such as social support of organizational change and active participation of employees in the process. Even in places where unions are strong, however, it is also crucial to receive support from superiors. Of course, superiors are the voice to the upper management. If you cannot get the support of your superiors, it is really not possible to have this organizational change for the psychosocial risk management. With no such support, even the most rational changes have hardly any chance of success, as I've said. A very important and valuable source of support is a mutual agreement between the union or unions and the company's management team. They should have a collective negotiation. So agreements and contracts should be also formed among the lower stages of the management structure and union officials in consultation with employers' representatives. However, managers must understand and support changes so that the changes can be effectively applied. In other words, it is imperative to confirm the set of rules and ideas of change at many levels of the organization to ensure they prevail and bring results. Or as Karasek and Theorel aptly observe, that they have to come to the critical organizational bulk. And then also, active participation from regular employees is another critical condition for the successful application of new rules and changes. So the foundation of participation ergonomy lies in the theory that efficient work conditions, including psychosocial aspect, is not possible without employee support. Of course, because these regular employees should support, meaning that they are, as people of the organization, that they're accepting the changes also. And then the advantages of including employees in the process are as follows. Psychosocial risk factors occur in many fields, and their origins may vary. An effective diagnosis of such a state, given by a broad and miscellaneous body, usually shows factors that might be missed by a single observer or even a sole management team. So, of course, it's like you're working, two heads are better than one. And then they have other they consider the opinion of other employees and inputs, suggestions. And then participation in the decision-making process leading to solving problems increases involvement in applying a solution previously accepted as valid. Because you have many options, it's better to have many options because you can get insights of the different employees who have different experiences and select the best solution. Okay, next is we have forms of prevention, limitation of the sources of psychosocial risk, limitation of physical and physiological reaction to risks, and treatment of health losses caused by long-lasting stress resulting from psychosocial risks. So, monitoring psychosocial risk at work. Monitoring psychosocial work conditions means simply finding the risk factors in the psychosocial area of work. It requires observing both work conditions and the staff's health level. The basic tools useful in such monitoring processes are checklists and questionnaires, conducting surveys. And then stress prevention directed at an individual. So first is the individual or the employee, he or herself, must have a healthy lifestyle. So physical exercise is the basis of a healthy lifestyle, as said in the previous activity or in the previous lesson, that physical exercise is good for our health. It not only improves the general condition of organisms such as the cardiovascular and respiratory systems, but also improves psychological state by reducing fear, depression, and aggression, and increasing self-confidence and self-esteem. Because if you remember the previous videos, that by means of exercise, our brain produces endorphins. So endorphins makes us happy. Then stretching exercises such as jogging, swimming, or bicycling are believed to be the best. So I hope again, for the third time in this lesson, that we should incorporate exercise and include jogging. Jogging, that is the least expensive because you just have to jog. Just wear your jogging pants, your sweatshirt, and your rubber shoes, and you're ready to go. Swimming, of course, you need a swimming pool. Bicycling, you need a bicycle or a stationary bike at home. And an effective exercise is carried out 3 to 4 times a week. If 3 to 4 times a week, it can be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or at least um, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So for a period of 30 to 40 minutes. So other important elements of a healthy lifestyle include, of course, not just exercise. You should have proper nutrition, eat a balanced diet, weight control. You should know your BMI, the body mass index, your height, what is the proper weight for your height, and not smoking, and getting adequate amounts of sleep and relaxation. Okay, we have another for cognitive behavioral techniques. So cognitive behavioral techniques are based on the assumption that emotions, the quintessence of stress, are a derivative of cognitive judgment about reality. Sometimes there are people who are overanalyzing things. It's just that overanalyzing or the overanalysis is we're just making our minds ready for the worst. Actually, I'm a type of person that overanalyzes things. That sometimes this is the joke. You are creating your own ghost, if it's in Tagalog. So sometimes you are overanalyzing that it's not really what will happen. It's just that we are just making ourselves ready for the worst. Thus, a change in the perception of reality may cause a decrease in negative feelings and behaviors connected with these emotions. So the most accredited technique in this field is a rational emotive therapy offered in the 1960s by Albert Ellis. So its goal is to persuade a person to abandon irrational beliefs that empower stress. So example of this is I expect all people to be fond of me and form more realistic and less stress-causing judgments. Okay. As I've said, if I'm feeling so stressed and if I and I and if I felt that I have this chronic stress, I'm also consulting specialists. For example, I'm feeling this way. I'm asking him or her, what if this is only my feeling? Good thing is that she said, actually, of course, we have a guidance counselor. Even the guidance counselor for students as faculty members can also ask or consult her for free at least. She told me that that's just normal. And then but because why I'm asking her, it's because I want to have another perspective. Maybe I'm just overreacting with what is happening. So I need another expert's opinion so that this is just normal. So I'm not overreacting. It really is happening to other people. So I'm very thankful that it's just normal. Okay, next is we have other methods in this group are the cognitive evaluation technique, which teaches the subject to look at the stress-causing factor from another point of view, making it less dangerous or even revealing its positive aspects, or the cognitive endeavor technique, cognitive rehearsal, in which the subject adapts emotionally and cognitively in an artificial surrounding to situations that normally cause anxiety. For example, refusal to perform a superior's assignment. And then we have also relaxation techniques. So one of the most popular techniques is called neuromuscular relaxation, which is based on the gradual and methodical loosening of muscles and therefore decreasing mental tension. Another popular technique is progressive relaxation developed by Jacobson. Yet another approach is called respiratory regulation, which is based on learning a deep, phrenic breathing. This technique requires focus and concentration in the process of breathing alone. Respiratory regulation is believed to be a reasonable way to decrease stress and increase relaxation. So for this one, so that's why sometimes if you are stressed, one of the methods is um, uh, you should breathe deep. So that's what is the respiratory regulation. And then Schultz autogenic training is based on the assumption that a human being can suggest to itself certain physiological states, for example, increasing the body heat level or heart rate. So for relaxation technique, so this is what we call you can have meditation for you to aware of the surroundings. And for Schultz, I think this is something to do with um, it's all in the power of the mind. We can do anything if our mind is powerful. And then biological feedback is a whole set of methods based on the fact that with help from sensitive measure gear, a customer may receive punctual feedback about their organs. So, of course, we have these watches. And then in relation to information type, we can mention electromyographic feedback, providing information about tension of certain muscles, thermal feedback, providing information about temperature, and electroencephalographic feedback, providing information about brain waves. Okay, we have stress prevention directed at an individual. How about stress prevention directed at an organization? So organizational changes are seldom performed. So therefore, there is a need to direct more focus onto organizational impact as a method of countering stress. So next is optimization of task content for the organization. Work task designing is a traditional subject of interest connected with psychology and work organization. The job design movement offered four techniques to optimize tasks. First is we have job rotation, moving employees to new stations on a regular basis so that employees will not be bored with their work. Then, so that these employees will have a vast knowledge of the operations of the company. And then job enlargement, merging similar jobs into larger modules. job enrichment, connecting simple task and control and decision elements, assigning workers to tasks with higher levels of complication, and creation of autonomous work groups, creating independent employee groups responsible for larger job fragments. Next is also increasing employee participation. An important cause of stress, low job control, can be eliminated in two main ways. First is by increasing job autonomy, which is an important element of job enrichment. So again, having a control with the job, empowering your subordinates or your employees, and then also by increasing employee participation in the company's management process. It means that by means of employees' participation, the employee will feel that they are important to the company. They have a voice. They can raise suggestions and their concerns. And the next is defining work time framework. So an excessive number of work hours is an important cause of stress. Hence, an organization should provide a clear work time framework, eliminating overworking. So again, why I have this rule that if you're going to send me private message, it should be within office hours, because um, to reduce stress. And I'd want you also to be mindful since you're still student, but it will come a time that you'll also be an employee. You should be mindful, because I don't know. I think this generation always feel that they are entitled of everything. They're not thinking of others anymore. I hope that I am wrong. I hope that I'm just judging you. I'm being judgmental, but that's what I always observe. They don't care about other people, what they will feel. For example, oh, you just remember, I am going to ask something to the professor, then you're going to send him a private message on wee hours of the night because you just wake up and you don't want to forget what you're going to ask. But I hope that you have to be mindful, because if you will bring that in if you're already an employee, and if you bring that in your workplace, and your immediate supervisor does not like those types that you're going to send them private messages off office hours, of course it will not you will not it's not that you will be reprimanded. That's the worst case, but of course you should be mindful of the time. So we have to respect the time, because for example, for us teachers, yes, our occupation is teaching you. Our responsibility is to teach you, but we also have other roles in life. We are also a friend. We're also a child to our parents. I'm also a wife to my husband. I have many different roles that I also need to fulfill. So how at what time I'm fulfilling these roles? Of course, if I am at work, of course I'm a teacher, but these roles are also on my weekend basis. So I hope that you understand that though we may be teachers, that is our profession, we should be mindful and respect the time that we have to ourselves, because as you have learned in this lesson, that being a teacher can cause professional burnout. So I hope that again, be mindful of sending messages, private messages, because actually when I was in college, I was really very, it's not frightened. Um, it's not easy for me to text our professors. I don't know why nowadays it's easy for them without thinking, oh, maybe the professor will be angry because it's off office hours. So again, I hope you understand that is that rule for me, and it's not just for me. I hope that you apply it to all the instructors, because that is a way of taking care of ourselves to avoid burnout. Next is management development. A manager can become either a serious source of stress for his or her employees, or a buffer shielding them from stress causing factors. So it's a very good manager if he or she is a buffer shielding from stress causing factors. But if the manager is the stressor, or that's a different story. Then managers should know the primary sources and consequences of stress in order to effectively fulfill a health encouraging role. And managers should be familiar with stress management techniques such as delegating power and have good interpersonal skills. And managers should also have practical skills in their field. So, development of occupational careers and training of employees. A lack of possibilities for professional development can be an important stress causing factor at various stages of professional life. Of course, um, from time to time, managers should also think the promotion of their subordinates. Not because you're not promoting them because you think that they'll be better than you. They should not have these kinds of mindset. Then professional career development also requires adequate planning from the employees themselves. And then an attractive organization provides support in this field by organizing training sessions related to career planning, which help employees to learn about their weak and strong suits needed for successful career planning and facilitate the aggregation of the organization's possibilities. And then some companies hire special counselors to individually help the workers in their career planning. So, if one day you're going to be a manager or an immediate supervisor, since you already have the voice to the upper management, I hope that you won't neglect those employees who have helped you a lot in your work. You're always asking them for help and then you're not doing anything for their promotion. You already have that capability to voice out to help them be promoted. I hope that if you're going to be a manager and immediate supervisor, please be a blessing to those who are under you because of course they want to be promoted, of course because of the compensation also, and they've been working all their life and then you're not helping them to be promoted. And for the sad cases, there are managers and immediate supervisors, they are the ones who's always promoted, but the subordinates are always left behind in terms of promotion. I hope that if you are there as a manager and immediate supervisor, please think about the welfare of your subordinates. So, formation of effective organizational behaviors. So, effective organizational behavior training is another method which can limit employee stress. It focuses on individual entities. It is about creating organizational behaviors rather than forming behaviors in general. So, the following undertakings are included in this group. We have time management training, interpersonal skills training, and creation of a realistic image of the profession. So, with this lesson and discussion that we have, I hope that you've learned something about how to combat stress. Stress is inevitable. You cannot avoid it. It's either you remove, you change it, or accept it. But don't let stress control your life. Let yourself control stress. And then also for this lesson. So I hope that you'll be a blessing, not for now for your classmates, but I hope that if you ever be employed, please be a blessing to other people, to your managers, to your co-employees. And then another one that is not mentioned here in our lesson, it's also an important factor to have a personal relationship with God, with prayers, because this will also help reduce stress. That of course that um he God will help us so in every day that we do. So I don't know if, of course, even though we're in different religions, I think that you know what I'm saying, that prayers can also do a great things to reduce stress. So I hope that you learned something from this lesson. And for my personal experiences, I hope that you've also learned, so that again, so that's why I'm saying to you that please be a blessing to others, because being the victim of mobbing or workplace bullying is not a good thing. It does not have a good feeling. So, okay, if you have any questions, so feel please free to comment below, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So again, thank you very much. Good day and stay safe.